Thank you everybody so much for attending. Personally, I'm very excited about this webinar. I think there's a lot of great content that we're going to be able to share, go over, and a lot of this was driven by what we've heard from our customers. So I hope it's valuable. Before jumping into any content, just some quick housekeeping and logistics. We will be running a poll kind of midway here, so that should pop up in your little webinar panel, and hopefully that works for you. You can also enter questions into the Zoom Q&A section, so feel free as we're talking. If you have a question, just type it in there. We'll either respond as we see it, or if not, we'll make sure that there's time at the end. And there's also a chat feature, so if you are having any issues, feel free to just pop in there and let us know, and we'll try to help. But other than that, we'll go ahead and get started. And oh yeah, and finally, we are recording this. So if if you do want a recording of this webinar to share afterwards, just let us know. All right, so with no further ado, welcome to How to Run a 24/7 Permit Center. So want to just start by going over the agenda that we have in mind for today. We'll give you a quick intro on us, talk about why we felt like this would be a good webinar to run right now, and then just spend some time at the conceptual level talking about what a 24/7 permit center looks like, what some of those concepts and technologies are that you could look at, some best practices, and then we're going to spend a good chunk of this webinar on an actual product demonstration. So I'm aiming for maybe 10-15 minutes on the slides, and then the bulk of the rest of the time will be a demonstration. And then, like I said, any QA that people have at the end, we will make sure there's time for that as well. So about us, we are a software company. Camino builds technology for the permit process. We build a lot of different cool technologies. We have a permit system. We have software to help your customers better navigate and interact with the permit process. We have software to help with inspections and virtual inspections. And a lot of that we'll be looking at today. But the core of what we believe in and focus on here is building the best possible technology for government agencies. We think you all have a critically important job, and we want you to have the best tools as you're doing it. Just a quick intro on me. I've been building technology for government agencies for about the last decade. Been working on Camino now for a few years, and yeah, Mike, who's here with me, is our CEO and my co-founder. Mike, I don't know if you want to give a quick intro or say hi.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mike. I've been building software with Nate. I don't know how long now, Nate, maybe almost 10 years.
Yep.
And my background, very much deeply rooted in everything that isn't public sector prior to 10 years ago, built ad networks and social networks and lots of other kind of technology, until over the course of a short period of time realized I wanted to devote more of my time to working on more important problems than which ad to click. And that's actually how I met Nate. We co-founded a company called OpenGov and built that up and got our first foray into government, and got really excited about making it our long-term vision.
Yeah. And thanks for joining today, Mike. I think this will be a lot of fun. So, all right, so let's jump in. So what are we hearing that led us to run this session today? I mean, we work with dozens, well over 50 different agencies across the country. We have relationships with even more. And we've heard a lot of things that made us think, hey, this would be a good set of content to talk about today. The first thing that we hear a lot is that there's just ever increasing demand and changing expectations around what government services should look like, or how they should be offered. And oftentimes that's a desire for more and more services to be kind of on-demand, tech-based. Think about how we all interact on our phones with our bank or Amazon, Uber, things like that. People are used to that type of interaction in their lives, and they want that from government. And that's in some areas that's been addressed well. In other areas, it's there's still a gap between those expectations and the way services are offered. So that's one thing that we hear a lot. The other thing that we're seeing, both in government and obviously in the private sector is that COVID has accelerated trends that I think were already there, but that have become really prominent now. One of which is, of course, this trend towards working remotely. We've talked to many of our customers who say that they're considering full-time kind of remote work options, letting people work from home. Obviously, a lot of residents, business owners, homeowners, they are now maybe working from home. So it's become more and more important that there be ways for people to get important work done without necessarily being on site or say coming into City Hall. And the final thing that we're hearing that again seems to impact a lot of regions right now is really heavy workloads and either shrinking or not necessarily growing budgets. Again, I know that this can be different regionally, but a lot of organizations we talk to are saying that they are trying to be careful with their finances right now, and that's particularly hard when you have a lot of demand for permits, licenses, and you can't necessarily increase staff to help deal with that. So all of these trends together, really inspired us to put together some things that we think could be helpful. And before jumping to those, just wanted to go over again some of the specific challenges that we hear a lot, and these relate specifically to the permit process. So one of those is that permit applicants have a ton of questions about what they can do. I think right now there's a lot of people who are interacting with the permit process for the first time. I have friends who decided, hey, I can work from home now. I'm going to move to a bigger house. I need an office, so I'm going to go renovate my home and get a permit for it. And they have no idea what this process is. They've never even heard of a permit before. And so it's intimidating. And what they normally do is pick up the phone, call, and then what we hear is the counter staff in these permit centers are just getting inundated with calls. And it's taking up a lot of their time and resources. The other thing we hear is that because a lot of the permit process often requires dealing with counter staff either over the phone or through an in-person meeting, that applicants can sometimes get blocked on getting work done outside of those normal business hours. So if it's 9 p.m. on a weekday or it's Saturday and you're trying to figure out how to apply for something, you have a question, you might have to wait. You might have to say, okay, I got to wait till I can talk to somebody and they tell me what to apply for, or I want to submit new plans, but there's no way for me to do that. And the other thing that we hear a lot, this isn't necessarily a recent thing, but I think a general challenge for a lot of agencies is helping coordinate a complex project across different departments. Particularly if each department's using maybe a different system, has different online tools, some are digital, some aren't. That can become a very confusing and complex process for everybody. It's not unified. There's not a single place that you're going to kind of make progress and move your work along. So, Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about what a 24/7 permit center looks like? What are some elements that are really key to this idea?
Sure. Yeah. Don't think it will be anything too revolutionary here, but a lot of it is about helping applicants find answers to most of their questions online without staff help. So how easy is it for them to go find the answer of, I want to add an ADU to make a home office in my home or in my property? Item number 2 here is most of the permit process can be completed without visiting City Hall for a litany of reasons, whether it's due to COVID or it's just due to not being able to take time off work. How much progress can somebody make at their house? And how much of that process can be fully completed online before they go through a plan check or get into a full review? And how much information can they be armed with to answer a lot of questions so that they don't make some mistakes and then have to start a process over or on their side make a costly mistake? And I think a good test for this really is how much of a permit process or application can be done on a Sunday afternoon. And, it's interesting, like we use this test when we're hiring, would we want to work with someone on a Sunday? And, it tells us how inviting they are or maybe pleasant to be around they are. And I think about this a lot with software too. So is this the kind of software you want to log in to use on a Sunday? Is the information available? So for your application process, how much can I do on Sunday during the couple hours that I might have away from family to get something done?
Yep. So again, this is just sort of a framework that we've heard from a lot of innovative organizations, how they think about this type of a concept. And, I think the benefits should be pretty apparent, but these are some of the things that we've seen as agencies invest more in these areas. One is you improve customer service. The average citizen, resident, I mean, we're all very busy people. And if we can just kind of get things done on our own schedule, that's really nice. And then when that happens, it has benefits for the agency. You reduce calls, questions, mistakes. Obviously, that can lead to faster turnaround time on permits. And then the other benefits are you and your staff can get work done remotely. You don't necessarily have to be, in the office to make progress on something. Maybe you're in the field, but, you also need to reply to a question somebody had about an application they're doing, or maybe, maybe it's a weekend and you want to get some stuff done, are you able to do that? And then the other thing that I don't think gets talked about as much, but the more technology, we can bring into these processes, the easier it is to respond to changes. When documentation and process is done on paper and it's, in PDFs and managed manually, it can be really hard when things change to get everybody on the same page. And this is an area where again, software can be helpful. So, there's some basic elements of a 24/7 permit center that likely many people on this call are already doing. One is being on a web-based permit system. Essentially just, do you have a permit system that you can access anywhere? Really key. Not all systems on the market have been like this historically, although more and more are now. Being able to accept applications online. So, if I'm applying for that permit, can I go fill that out online? Can I come back and check the status? Providing content on the website, so handouts, FAQs, just kind of covering the basic questions that people tend to have. And of course, online inspection scheduling. This is nice if you don't have to wait on a phone queue to figure out when somebody can come out and help finish your project. So like I said, these are some things that we think are really foundational to this concept. And of course, if you're not doing them, definitely things that we think would be really helpful. And just to be clear, on this whole webinar, I mean, we're going to focus, on some Camino software and show you examples from us. But our goal in general with these types of webinars isn't necessarily to tell you that you should go buy Camino. It's more just to make sure you are aware of what type of resources are out there for you. But like I said, this is kind of foundational. What really excites us and what we spend a lot of time thinking about is what can the future look like? What are the ideas that can take that foundation to the next level? Mike, do you want to talk through some of these things that we think are really exciting and that our customers are excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. 5 key parts that we've identified from spending time with our customers over the past year or two on these topics. One is a one-stop shop portal. So how do you allow different department processes to exist for one application in one place? Going left to right, we have online guides and permit wizards that incorporate things like automatic zoning checks. So when I come to the department and I'm ready to fill out some type of permit application, how many automatic checks are done at the beginning of that to stop me from making a mistake, to make sure I'm in even the right jurisdiction, to make sure that I'm not in a floodplain or something like that that could really cause problem with my process. Looking at next row on the left, automatic e-permits. Are there certain kinds of permits I can pull? It's Saturday, my water heater goes out, I get it replaced. How can I automatically pull that permit on the weekend while it's fresh in my mind that I may need a new permit if you're in the state of California, for example? Over to electronic plan submission and review. How do I make this entire process digital, capture all the notes, capture all the resubmittals, and keep, whether it's just me as an individual or my construction team or architecture team on the same page. And finally, how can we have a more seamless experience around self-inspections and virtual inspections? So some counties are now allowing residents to kind of take videos or pictures of small things like a water heater and get their own permit issued that way. There's also other cases where there's virtual inspections where a very trained subject matter expert on behalf of the city can coordinate a live stream video with me as a homeowner and do an inspection digitally.
Yep, exactly. And these are some things we'll show shortly here as we come up to the demo. Before that, though, I do want to run this poll, and I'm very interested to see what the group here finds interesting, important, and really just see why this general topic was interesting to the group. So I just launched that. You should see it pop up in your Zoom panel. So just go ahead and put in your answer there. Obviously more than one might apply, but I'm just curious to see kind of the most pressing needs. So I'll go ahead and let that run for a little bit here. Looks like we have pretty good responses so far. I'll just run for another few seconds. Okay, cool. Go ahead and end this, and let's take a look at the results. Okay, so pretty interesting actually, and I'll see if I can share these with the group. Yeah, I mean, pretty big majority, about 67% of people are saying that the reason that a 24/7 permit center concept is interesting is to provide a better experience to applicants. About 20% say it's to save staff time, and then looks like a few are maybe not sure or something. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty interesting, also consistent with what we've heard from our customers, that a lot of this is really about helping your customer, helping residents, and just overall making this process easier for everybody. Awesome, thank you for providing that information. Okay, so with that, I want to talk a bit about how we've been able to help, and we've touched on these concepts already, but I just think it's helpful to give an overview before showing the software of what we're going to look at. So the things that we do at Camino focus on a few areas. The first is, like Mike said, these online guides, wizards that can help applicants find information, automatically navigate the process, things like that. We also have really easy to use web-based software that can take forms, documents, payments, can auto issue permits. And this is software that you can use with your existing permit system, or that could be used as its own permit system. So really, depending on what situation you're in, doesn't matter what your existing infrastructure is. We've built our system to be flexible and make it easy to kind of add on that type of functionality. And then finally, these virtual and self-inspections that we're seeing more and more agencies doing, where instead of going on site, you run the inspection through a phone. So the first thing I'm gonna demonstrate is this this guide technology that I mentioned, and this is something that that we think is really powerful, because it's an area that I don't feel like gets as much thought as the permit process itself. Obviously every agency for the most part has a permit system that manages the application, the reviews, inspections. But what about before that process? What about when somebody is thinking about getting a permit or starting to do research? What resources and tools are there for them? Oftentimes the permit system is really just for running the actual project. It doesn't help them with the months and months and months of lead up to that point. And so that's really where we try to focus with the system that I'll be showing you. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo now and kind of give an overview of that technology. As a reminder, we do have this Q&A section, so please feel free to jump in there if you do have questions at any point, and we'll make sure to address them. All right, so let's jump over here and take a look at how this system works. So like I was mentioning, this is a portal that we can easily set up for your agency to give customers kind of this one-stop shop experience where they're able to kind of figure out what to do and how to navigate the process easily. Kind of keeps everything in one place, and then it really holds their hand and guides them through the complexities around doing this type of a project, whether it's adding an office to the new home you bought, or opening a business. Maybe you're trying to open a new coffee shop and You want to know what that process is going to look like. So the system's very flexible. It's very configurable, and can adapt to a lot of these different types of processes. You'll also notice that from a design perspective, we've tried to make this approachable to anybody, regardless of their level of expertise. So, if you've ever used something like TurboTax when you pay your taxes, we take a lot of design cues from software like that. And instead of needing to figure out, okay, what permit do I need? Let me find the right link to click on. We just start by asking some questions. What type of project are you doing? And going from there. So in this case, I could select, I want to do a residential project as an example. And then the system says, okay, what type of residential project? Is this a new home? Are you doing site work? Are you altering this structure? What are you doing? And so I keep going through this process. I can say, maybe I'm doing an accessory structure. And in this case, maybe I want to go ahead and add a garage to my home. So I go ahead and make that selection. The next thing that our software does, which is really powerful, is like we mentioned earlier, this ability to do automatic zoning checks, location verification. So this could mean just checking to confirm that the applicant is actually in the jurisdiction that they think they're in. We talk to customers who tell us that maybe you're a more rural city and people think they live in the city, but they're actually in the county and they apply in the wrong place. So it can do that, all the way to confirming that your zone is going to be consistent with the type of work you're doing. If I'm building a garage for a residential project, probably important that I'm in a zone that allows that. If I'm in a floodplain, maybe I have different requirements that are going to apply to my project. So, go ahead and enter an address here. And again, behind the scenes, this is going to capture all of that information and then generate logic under the hood to guide me to the right place. Then the next thing, once that location has been captured, is what we call the survey. So this is also really, really powerful. And what we can do is set up this system so that after we've identified the type of project and gathered that information, we can essentially come back and ask the user more detailed questions to narrow down specifically what they will or won't have to do. So if certain accessory structures don't need a permit if they're a specific size, we can figure that out. Maybe you only need a permit if it's more than 120 square feet. Maybe depending on how tall the walls are and other factors, there's going to be other types of plans or reviews that need to happen. So I can just go through this process of kind of answering things, and again, this is going to build out a customized application process to follow. And you can really think of this as taking the place of the conversations that historically have happened at the permit counter. So think about a typical project that somebody's trying to do like this. They'll probably come in and have a meeting, or maybe they're picking up the phone and calling, and they're going to have questions. They're going to ask, what permits do I need? And then you'll ask them, well, it depends. How big is it? And are you cutting down trees? What side of the house is it going to be on? All these questions that you're asking get brought into this software so that, first off, I can do this on my own time. Right. So coming back to this concept of a 24/7 permit center, I can literally do this any time of day, regardless of when that counter is open and available. It's going to answer my questions. It's going to let me complete this at my own pace. So the other nice thing is, if I at some point, decide I need to stop and come back, all this is saved in real time. And we've also added the ability for you to add extra help content or information. So let's say I get to a question, I'm not sure what it means. I can click this button that says, I'm not sure how to answer this. And it can pull out some extra information that might clarify what this question is asking. So, I'll go ahead and finish answering some of these other questions. And we'll go ahead and submit that part. And then finally, the system, of course, can do fee calculations. So if if you have variable fees, you can gather the information needed to calculate that as well. Or at minimum, you could use this to provide them with an estimate, and then you could give them the actual total later. So submitting all that information now brings me to the permit application. And this is, again, this is the portal where I'm going to now be able to work through all the different steps that are involved in getting this project done, and all the different things that you would generally ask somebody to complete in order to get their permit. So clicking Getting Started here, we can see over on the left a customized checklist of the different steps that are going to be required. At the top, we have some information. So I'll go through this, and it's pretty cool. And this is an example of how we can generate this kind of guided process for somebody, making sure that they have access to all the resources that they may need or have questions about. From there, we then move into the application itself, where there's going to be a list of required steps I have to complete. And you can see up here at the top, there's a Submit Application button, but I can't click this. I can't submit my application until I have completed the steps that are deemed required. So another thing that's really nice and helpful here is that it's much less likely that somebody is going to do an incomplete application that then needs to get corrected later. We hear very often that a challenge that somebody might know they need a building permit, so they fill out that application, but they don't know that they also needed a planning permit, and they don't know that they also needed to, in addition to a floor plan, they needed a site plan. So, they prepare what they think they need, they submit it, and then they find out 2 weeks later that, oh, sorry, you didn't provide a complete application. And that, of course, is going to be frustrating for that customer. It's also going to slow the process down because now they have to go do that work that they could have been doing while things were being reviewed. So one thing that we found really helpful and that we've heard a lot is that providing this information upfront and making it really clear and explicit what has to get done helps reduce a lot of those mistakes, errors that can happen. And of course, this also does drive greater consistency. So something else we talked about around this concept of sort of an online 24/7 permit center is making sure that people have a consistent process regardless of what they're trying to do and who they're talking to. Because things are built into the logic of the system, everybody building a garage at that location is going to be told the same things and be guided in the same way. So, okay, so let's take a look at this information up here that I was mentioning. So, so this is, think of this as like the handouts that you might ask somebody to review or give to somebody to review if they were doing this type of project. You might ask them to review land survey requirements for a new structure. You might ask them to take a look at this handout on foundation and bracing information. You might want to note that they're in a fire hazard zone. And as a result of that, there's going to be certain requirements they have to follow. So, maybe you want them to go read your fire hazard zone construction requirements. Things, again, that are not necessarily easy to catch during the process and that happen here automatically. So again, just as a reminder, this fire hazard zone flag is happening completely automatically. That's just coming off of GIS data based on the parcel that was entered. And you can also provide things like setback information. If you want to make this easily navigable online without somebody needing to talk to a planner about the setbacks, you can put this here. This system can detect what zone they're in and then let them know what their setbacks would be for this type of structure. So once I've reviewed all that and I'm ready, I can now move down into the application process, which again is very neatly laid out for me here. So if I need to fill out information for my building permit, I just do that right here. I can put in my information and my contractor's information, put in their license number, etc. You'll notice that this is autofilling, for example, the project valuation, and that's because I entered that earlier. So one thing that our system can do, which is very cool, is it can gather information at various points, and then you can use that information in other areas. So if if you've already gathered the valuation and you now need that to trigger some logic or use it in a fee calculation, you don't have to ask for it again. It just will auto-populate everywhere it's needed. And I'll just fill out building a new garage right here. Go ahead and save that. And I've completed the first step of my application. It's marked done, and I can move on. It does look like somebody had posted a question here. So let me see what this is. So somebody asked, how do you obtain floodplain, shoreland, and fire hazard zones for the software to kick in the extra steps? Yes, that's a really, really good question. And that information is going to come from you and your GIS system. So what we will do when we set up this system initially is ask you to either send us your GIS layers, or you can just point us to your GIS system and we can link to it. And then what our software lets you do is build rules around those GIS layers. And it's very easy. There's no coding required. This all can be done by, a very non-technical, non-expert user. So yeah, great question. A couple other questions I see. Does Camino come populated with generic content and the jurisdiction then modifies it, or does the jurisdiction have to create all the content? So yeah, no, again, another really, really good question. And I will talk a bit about how the configuration here works, because it's really cool. Like I said, there's no coding required. So everything is built out through kind of a visual rule and workflow builder in our system. Now, standard process would be to start with a kind of a blank slate. So certainly you have flexibility to build this all out however you want, right? There's no like hard-coded content here that you have to use. You don't have to use our categories. Having said that, it is very common that agencies will want to start from a template or even start from content that another jurisdiction used. So, in our case, we have a couple dozen cities in California that are on our system. So if a new city in California joins, well, they may want to start by looking at, do I have a neighbor using this or another city like me? And if what they see looks good and they want to use some of that content, we can copy it over as a starting place. And so we've done that many times. It's a very common process. So the short answer is we can do this either way, but certainly you do not have to build this all out from scratch if you want to start from one of those templates. I also see one final question about recording, and yes, just to answer the question, we are recording this, and I will be happy to share that link so you can forward this to others. Thank you for the questions, by the way, and again, please keep posting those as things come up. Okay, so I filled out my permit details. Now we know that a typical application may not just require a single form. It often will require multiple forms. So again, the nice thing here is you can just kind of put those all in one place for somebody to follow. And you don't have to build forms in Camino. Another pretty cool option that we see used a lot is this ability you can upload an existing form and then basically just turn it into a digital form in our software. So let's say this is a state mandated form that has to be in a particular format and requires e-signatures. You don't have to have somebody fill that out in pen and upload a picture of it. You just digitize it here. And then this will save the content, store the values with the application. And like I said, we can do things like e-signatures as part of that process as well. One more question just came in, and the question was, is this a layer on an existing permit system such as Excella? Okay, so yeah, so again, really, really good and important fundamental question. So let me actually go back to this slide I had here quickly. So yes, this is designed to be used alongside an existing permit process. So that could be Excella, it could be Tyler, it could be Trackit. I mean, doesn't really matter what that underlying system is. This is meant to be used as something that can give you a better citizen-facing experience for that permit software. Now, we do also have our own permit system. So again, if you are looking for a permit system, we have that as well, and it has all the same functionality I just showed you, but oftentimes we see this getting used alongside an existing software. And that can be integrated or not. So one thing that we'll want to discuss with you, if this is something that looks interesting, is how we make that connection works. We could explore an integration where information goes from Camino automatically into, say, an Excella system, or we have really easy ways for you to just kind of gather the applications in Camino and then transfer them over, as if it were just a normal application. Many agencies do things that way as well. So anyway, short answer is yes, this is designed to work kind of alongside or on top of an existing system, and be happy to talk to you about the details of that. Couple other questions. Is this ADA compliant? Yes, this is ADA compliant. So yes, you'll have no issues there. And then there's a question, what version of Trackit do you integrate with? So yeah, again, that's probably something that's better to talk about offline because there's many versions of these systems, and it's not necessarily just a matter of the version. It's, are you web-based? Are you on-premise? So yeah, I would say if you want to know details of that, just reach out one-on-one and we can answer that. Yeah, no, thank you. Great questions, and keep them coming. Okay, so we've completed these 2 forms. All the information has been captured, saved for me, and stored with my application. Okay, so now we want to move on to uploading documents. So again, this is something that's going to be really critical, especially if you want to explore, or if you do electronic plan review. Having an easy way for people to submit these documents and manage that process is going to be key. Not great if people need to send things in over email, for example. So all I have to do here to submit something is literally go ahead and drag it from my desktop, go upload it here, and it'll upload really fast, attach it right to your application. You can upload multiple things if you want to. There's no effective restrictions on on file size, for example. So this is a really versatile system for gathering and managing documents. And you'll notice again, as I upload things, it just automatically tracks my progress and marks that step complete. So I can move through these different sets of plans that I need to upload. Just go ahead and drag these from my desktop here, get them all attached. Now, one thing as well that's really cool is we have this chat functionality built into the software. Now, I'll admit this is something that when we built it, we weren't sure how much use this would get. We had some customers who wanted this, and we wanted to see what this would look like. This gets used all the time. I mean, it is unbelievable how much volume and traffic this chat feature gets, and it's really, really helpful because it keeps communication in one place. You're not needing to worry about one-off emails that were sent between you and the applicant, or or phone calls that happened and nobody wrote down the notes and now it's lost. If I have a question, let's say I'm looking at the setback verification form and I want to know, does this need to show neighboring lots? I go ahead and post that message, and that sends a chat message right through this interface here, logs my history, and then counter staff are alerted, and they can then come in and respond directly to these questions, and their responses are captured here. So then the next person to come in and work on this application, they see that history, and there's a lot more transparency around the process. So that's a very cool feature, like I said, that we see get used constantly. But let me go ahead and finish this final upload. So there's one more upload step I need to do. And once that's complete, you'll see this prompts me to submit my application. So it'll say, are you ready to submit? And in this case, I'll just go ahead and say yes. And now my application is submitted for review. And it's that easy. We see people go through this process in a matter of minutes on a regular basis. One final thing that I think just important to show here is the fee payment. So again, you can decide if you want to do fee payment through Camino, but we do have that functionality built in. And so if I have fees I need to pay here, I can go ahead and do that in the system. I hit pay fees, and this takes me to a portal where I can pay with a credit card. Or you can have them pay with a check or something like that and just mark it for them. I see one more question here. Do you require residents to log into the system to complete the form? So yes, we do require people to log in to complete forms and pay fees and upload documents, things like that. However, you don't have to log in to start using the system. So we do actually support a kind of a guest mode at the start of this process. So if somebody wants to just use this as a guest, kind of go through the guide and get here before logging in, they can do that. But then in order to actually start filling things out and submitting, at that point, they would have to log in or create an account. And the reason we do that is so that they have an easy way to come back later and complete it if they want to save their progress. Okay, so that's an overview of this process from the perspective of a resident. Like I said, this is really meant to just cut through what can be a very complex process, can be intimidating for people. And again, really drive this concept of a 24/7 permit center where somebody can do so much of this work on their own time. And I'll kind of show you some other cool functionality in here. So let's say this application's been submitted. Now, for certain types of permits, you might just say, hey, we don't need to even review this. We're fine just issuing the permit automatically. So Camino does support that. We can set this up where once the application's submitted, we just check, make sure they paid the right fees, submitted the required documents, filled in the fields, and a permit gets generated and emailed to them. Now, if you want to have a review process, we have that built in as well in a very easy system. So if I go ahead and flip over to the back end of the software here, this is the submission review interface. And I can go ahead and pull up this submission that I just made. And this is going to very neatly lay out everything for me. You know, here's all the information that was part of my application. I can come down here, view where the project is. I have all the documents that were uploaded, all the payments over here. So really easy to kind of just see all that information that was submitted in one place. Over here on the left, I have information on the submission. I can see if there are other applications active at that address or parcel. So kind of easy to just see what other activity may be going on. There's also this activity feed that's going to show me sort of a running log of how people worked through this project. So it'll show me when the submission was made, when communications happened. It's just kind of a nice way to go back and get a timeline of how things progressed. But let's say I'm reviewing this and something's missing, a document's missing, and there's a problem with the application. Really easy to just come in here and send this back for review. I can come back and say this needs changes. This will notify the applicant automatically via email, and I can say, please, resubmit your plot plan. It's missing neighboring lots, and go ahead and update that. And this will note that this whole application now needs changes. That made an entry into my activity feed here. And then coming back to this page as an applicant, if we just refresh this quickly, we will see that this application needs changes. I see the note from the agency, and now I can come in and, fix this. I can upload new plans, ask a question if I need to. But again, this is all happening asynchronously, to use kind of a technical term, right? I didn't need to, wait for somebody to call me to tell me this. I see this automatically over email, and I can just come in and fix this whenever I'm ready. So again, it's really driving that kind of 24/7 availability as a concept. So there's a lot more in this system that we're not going to have time to show you today. I mean, tons more, honestly. And I would say if anything you're seeing here looks interesting, let us know, and we'd be happy to set up a demonstration or show you things one-on-one. A couple just final things I want to show that I think are kind of important and interesting here. One is just kind of how this system gets built out. So again, not going to have time to really go in depth on here, but just wanted to demonstrate that this is all done through a no-code visual interface. All the logic of the system is managed here, so you can set up these different rules that tell the system what to do based on what type of application they're doing and the answers to these different questions. Things like the GIS rules are all built through this interface. So again, this is something that we see our customers come in and kind of use on their own all the time. You don't have to call Camino to make changes. You don't have to be a technical expert to maintain this system. Another thing I just wanted to show quickly here is the type of usage that one of these systems can get. So, I've been showing you just sort of a demo environment, but I've pulled up here the actual back end of the city of Santa Clarita, which is a city in California. And they've been using our software now for a few years and seeing a ton of success. And you can just see the volume of usage this gets. So I just ran a report here showing over the last year, from March 4th of last year to this year, you can see that they had 3,600 people basically go through this system, and you can kind of see how they progress through. But the one thing I wanted to show here that I think is really cool is the hours that people tend to interact with the software. So, obviously a lot of this is during the middle of the day, which is great because that means people are using this instead of calling. But look at how many people are using this after 5 p.m. A lot of people use this after 5, 6, even 9, 10 p.m. A lot of people use this in the middle of the night. I don't know who's doing permits at 4 a.m., but somebody is, using this in the middle of the night all the way up through 6, 7, 8 a.m. and then, their counter opens right around here at 8 or 9 a.m. So tons of people using this outside of those counter hours. And what we hear is that they're really grateful that this resource is there for them. Okay, so I know Mike's been doing a good job of fielding some of the questions that have come in, and he's responding to those. There have been some really good ones, and I'll just kind of address them in case people didn't see the answers. One is, can an applicant stop midway and return to where they left off? Yes, absolutely. My progress as I go through here is saved. I have this home page I can come back to and jump back into mid-progress at any time. And then it looked like there was also a question on fees. Yeah, so if you are going to do payment processing, yes, there would be sort of a payment processing fee tacked onto that. Okay, with the last few minutes of this demo, yes, go ahead, Mike.
That last question, it was a little more nuanced. It was, do we tack on any fees in addition to the payment fees? And so the clarification there is that we do not tack on any additional Camino collected fees. In some cases, agencies have chosen to tack on an application fee to help fund the software, at which point we would do that. But otherwise, it is purely the credit card processing fees that are offloaded to the end user.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. It's a good clarification. Okay, so with the last few minutes here, I want to show one other piece of technology that's newer, but has really been very successful and is cool, which is our virtual inspection system. So this, again, is kind of driving this idea of helping people work remotely, giving you a way to do inspections without needing to necessarily be on site. And going back to this concept of customer service, because that was the most important thing for everybody on this, or most people on this webinar, what we hear is that applicants, contractors love the ability to do remote inspections because there's way more flexibility in when these inspections can happen. Imagine you're a contractor who just installed a water heater and you want to just get that inspection done. Well, if somebody has to drive out to inspect it, they may not be available till the next day, a couple of days later. So now you have to come back on site later to finish the project. With remote inspections, virtual inspections, what we see oftentimes is that agencies can just say, hey, yeah, we have an inspector available at City Hall, or he's out in the field, but he could just jump on his phone and do it. And you can do that quick 5-minute inspection, let the contractor finish it, pull their permit, final their permit, they're done. And they really love that option. So I just want to show a quick example of how this works because it's very cool. So Mike is going to kind of play the role of the contractor here, and actually go ahead and we'll go ahead and start an inspection. So Mike, are you ready for this? If I go ahead and send this to your phone. Mike, you there? He's texting me yes. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in his phone number here. So this is really cool. And one of the things we wanted to do with the software was make sure that kind of unlike things like maybe a FaceTime or a Zoom where you have to download an app, that this is just something you could launch anytime. So I don't need to have a I don't need to have like a pre-planned app downloaded, something like that. I can literally just fill in a phone number, hit start, this sends a link, and then Mike can join this and we're going. So let's go ahead and start this. I'm gonna hit start with a recording. And I'll show you here behind the scenes what's kind of going on here. So Mike just got a text message. I'm just gonna kind of scroll down here and kind of show you what's happening. So he got a text that'll look something like this. It'll say, hey, you've been invited to join a Camino inspection. Goes ahead and clicks that link. He'll allow access to his microphone.
Nate?
Yes, you're here. All right, and he should be in now. So once these are done, he'll see a screen that looks like this. And if I jump back to this tab, we see him live streaming. So so like I said, very easy to get these types of sessions started. We can enable high quality video. There's two-way audio, so Mike and I can talk to one another. And this has some other cool features, like it will verify his location over here on the left. So one concern we hear with remote inspections is just, like, how do I know this person is where they said they were? This will verify, show me on a satellite view where he is in real time. I can see our signal strength, so this is helpful if there's ever any issues with the quality. And then there's other cool tools, like I can zoom in and out if I want to, grab a label, something like that. I can use this pointer to point at things and tell them to focus on it. So just really making this a much better process than virtual inspections have been historically. And if Mike just holds this steady for a second, I'll go ahead and capture an image. And this will give me an option to kind of build up a library of screenshots that ultimately then go into my inspection report. So I can note things, I can say this needs to be replaced. Go ahead and save that. And this gets added to my feed for the inspection here. And it's that simple, it's really meant to be intuitive, easy. We have customers doing thousands of these now on a regular basis. And it's working well in most cases. So cool. Like I said, just wanted to give a quick overview of this. Again, if you want to see more of this software, let us know. We'd be happy to set up a longer demonstration of it. But I do want to be respectful of the time that we scheduled for this webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. Thank you, Mike, for the quick demo, and we'll jump back to the webinar. Okay, so that wraps up the demo portion that we were kind of hoping to cover today. I'll go ahead and just kind of put this up here so you all know where to find more information about us. Like I said, if you do have questions about Camino, about our software, if you want to see a demo, want a recording, reach out, go to our website, camino.ai, and there's a lot of great information and ways to contact us. But like I said, that's sort of the bulk of what we wanted to cover today. So I will now open this up for any other questions or comments that people had, and we will kind of work through those. And it does look like there have been some comments come in, but I think Mike was handling those. So let me see if there's any new QA. Okay, a couple new QA. What's the average configuration time frame? Okay, so yeah, this is a really good question. And it does depend on what you're doing in the software, honestly. So, if you wanted to build out a really comprehensive guide for a lot of different process types and build in a lot of automation, that can take a couple months. Sometimes we're seeing like 3-4 months to kind of map things out, build out the system. Again, because there's no coding, because it's all just done through the Camino interface, it tends to be pretty fast, and we don't have to build custom software. But yeah, that's usually what you're looking at, say 2 to 4 months to kind of get stuff built out. Now, I will say we have seen much faster implementations than that. We just worked with the city of Alameda, California, and they wanted to get up an application portal in 2 weeks, and we were able to do that. So from the contract signing to when they were basically ready to go, it was like 2-3 weeks, and they've now been using it, and it's been tremendously successful for them. So this certainly can be done quite quickly in many cases. There's another question. How do you access the notes and images once the inspection has ended? Specifically, can all inspectors go in and see? Yeah, it's actually great question, and I'll jump back to that tab here so we can see that. So after the inspections are done, they will show up here in this little dashboard. So this is the one I just did with Mike, and I can go ahead and open that, and you'll see here that there's an inspection report that I can just go ahead and open. So I hit download, and this will bring up the report with whatever information I entered, the location that was captured, and then of course all of the notes, images, and this is automatically generated. So this is then something you can share with the contractor or just use for reference later. The inspections can also be recorded. So you'll notice there's a timestamp, and that lets you go back and kind of watch the recording and reference later where it was. And yes, all inspectors have access to this. So, I can, from this dashboard, I can just say either show me ones assigned to me or show me all inspections, and that would pull up ones that other inspectors did. Let's see. do you have demos that show how it integrates with the permitting software? Yeah, we can certainly show you that. Again, probably at this point, be easier to set that up one-on-one. So just, again, reach out and we can set up a 30-minute demo to show you how that could work. Another question, how closely do you work with Excella? Reason for question is, what happens if when they update their API, you use to pour data into it? Yeah, so look, I mean, this is a good question. That's obviously going to come up with any integration. We do have a good relationship with Excella. We know the team there very well. The CTO who built their current platform is one of our advisors and a partner. Actually, their founder and CEO is one of our investors. We have a very close relationship with Excella. We're very familiar with that system. Excella is a fairly well supported, stable system. They're not going to go just change their API overnight in a way that's going to go break integrations like this. So, if there were to be changes to their API, that's something that would be announced well in advance and something we could, account for and obviously make the necessary adjustments so that it kept working. Let's see, anything else that's come up? Is there a notification system that can be sent by email? Yeah, actually, so I touched on this a little bit, but the entire system is all built around automated email notifications. It's really, really cool. And something that's very important to us is making it so that everything you do can kind of have these automated notifications. So you don't have to go write a separate email. So I showed the chat feature, how these messages get sent. When you put a chat message in, it will just send that as an email to the applicant. So they know, hey, a chat came in, and then they can reply to that email. Similarly, whenever you're doing updates to the application or things like that, you'll see it says, do you want to notify the applicant via email? And you can put a message in. So let's say I'm ready to move this into review or I'm ready to approve it. I can just type a note here and say, congrats, you've been approved. And once I update that status, because I have this checked, that will automatically send an email. So yeah, really good question and a very important and powerful part of the software. And then a question, can the inspection tool work as a standalone? So yes, we did touch on this. It's not necessarily super easy to demo for obvious reasons, but yes, we also do let you, with our inspection tool, do what we call self-inspections. So if you wanted to just set up sort of a process where somebody could go, take photos of their own water heater and submit those in, our software does support that. So great question.
Nate,
yes.
I think this question is also a little more nuanced, or rather obvious, to take it at plain text, which is that I think they're asking, can they purchase or use the inspection software without the rest of Camino? And the answer is yes. Actually, we built the inspections product to run outside of Camino's, the rest of its product, last year when a lot of cities were having inspections slow down. So they are actually two separate products. They do integrate together for those customers of ours who have both, but we have many customers on just inspections and many customers just on guide.
Great. Yeah, that's a good point and probably was what he was asking. So good catch. Okay, awesome. All right. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else we haven't answered. There's a lot of questions, which I love. Mike, you seen anything we haven't answered yet?
I'm waiting for the hard questions. I'm here like a hawk looking.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, but no, not seeing anything. We'll hang out. I mean, we'll stay on, if there's anything else people have that they want to ask, go ahead and put it in. But we are right here at the hour mark. So otherwise, thank you all so much. This was great. Again, hope this was helpful and would love to hear your feedback. So please do reach out if you liked this and it was a really helpful webinar, or if it wasn't, if this just didn't kind of give you the content you were looking for. I'd really love to hear that too. It helps us as we design the content for future ones. So either way, great to hear from you. Certainly, please reach out if we can be helpful. If you want to try any of our software, pilot things, get demos, we're available and eager to help. So again, thank you so much. Thank you, Mike, for helping out and showing us your home. And I hope everybody here has a wonderful rest of their day and a great week.